Thanks everyone for joining us today. It's great to see you all here. We're going to make a start. So it's the July high five. I don't know where the time's going. It's been about 18 months for us now, eh, Sarah? It's flown by.
Yeah, that's crazy, isn't it?
It is. I don't know where the time's gone, but it's great. So many cool people turning up, and we've had great speakers. So we'll kick things off very briefly. We'll just mention we do have a code of conduct. Short version is be nice. We know you're all a good bunch. We know you will. But if there's any trouble, when Sarah Jones steps in the room, everyone runs. So if there's any trouble, Sarah Jones is the official bouncer for High Five. I don't mess with her. No one messes with her. So just ping us
directly. Heather is back up today.
Yeah.
Bring in the heavies.
Yeah, definitely no trouble today. But yeah, Sarah, if you want to take this one, over to you.
Yeah, awesome. So I'm really excited to have two, I would call them community leaders here with us. Keith Atherton doesn't need much of an introduction. If you've been to any in-person events, he's possibly been speaking. And I'm not being sarcastic, Keith. He's a brilliant speaker and trainer, as is Neil Rowlands. Neil hosts the Wales Power Platform User Group, which Franco and I will be at tomorrow evening, so really looking forward to that. And can I just say, out of all the events that I've been to, either as a guest or a speaker, this is we've really shared the love on socials, like on a one-to-one basis, arranging a meal before the group. That's awesome. I'm really grateful. So thank you. I'm really looking forward to it.
Awesome.
And Natalia as well is joining in this session, so talking about becoming a community speaker. And this is a perfect place to do it. Followed by Heather Poulter, who is a friend of mine. I've known her for some time. We've been talking about getting out there and showing how awesome she is. So I'm really excited to have Heather here on High Fives today as well. And Elvira, I'm not sure if she's on the call yet, but yeah, I met Elvira in Budapest just less than a year ago. And she's a girl's girl, full of energy, got lots to say. Oh, she's there. Sorry, I'm glad you're here. Well, she knows what I've got to say about her anyway. But yeah, awesome. Pocket rocket, just like Heather. So looking forward to that session as well about AI in action with Microsoft Foundry and talking about bringing business value. So I don't think I need to say anything else other than welcome everybody, and over to you, Keith, Neil, and Natalia.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Neil, did you want to share the screen or?
Yeah, I'll do that now. Yeah.
Thanks, buddy. Appreciate that. It feels a bit cheeky, me speaking on my own user group here, by the way, but hopefully no one's noticed.
That's one of the benefits of being a user group leader, isn't it, Troy?
Yeah. Good stuff.
All right. Okay. So thanks everybody for attending. So yeah, myself and Keith and Natalia. So what we're going to do is we're going to learn how to develop a session, overcome obstacles, prepare fallbacks to any on-the-day problems. We've got quite a tight time frame today, so there's a little bit of extra content on setting up for a Sessionize account. Probably won't have time to do that, but if you message either of us, then we'll send this to you as a PDF, which will have those instructions in there. All right, so I'm Neil Rowlands, MBA, lots of certifications. My day job is a Power Platform architect at the Intellectual Property Office, also a freelance trainer and consultant, and I've got a great course on becoming a trainer as well. So if you want to upgrade your staff to be able to share their knowledge with others, then give me a shout.
Awesome. Thank you so much. So yeah, my name is Keith Atherton, Microsoft MVP and a Microsoft certified trainer as well. I love the training and coaching too. So my career journey, short version is a pro code developer. So if there's any kind of extensions or Azure or Foundry, which Elvira is an expert in, which we'll hear more about later, I'm kind of the nerd that people come to for those extra geeky things that they need. But yeah, recent years, I've become a Power Platform developer and then an architect, and I work at Capgemini. Thanks.
Thank you, Keith. So my name is Natalia Denisuk, and I'm an AI and digital workplace pre-sales architect, a bit of a handful, but the way I describe it is you will know a lot of AI doesn't actually make it out of POC, and I'm the person that actually bridges that gap. So I will work across Copilot Chat, M365 Copilot, and Copilot Studio at a lovely company called Changing Social in Bristol. Thank you, Keith.
Awesome, thanks. We'll walk you through the benefits of speaking, any challenges you may have with speaking events, some gotchas, how to structure a session, other things to consider, developing our session to make it memorable, handling questions, and preparing and setting up any fallbacks in case there's any problems on the day, and then as the appendix, creating a session profile. So now you know who we are, then we'd like to get some interaction going in the chat. So we don't really have time for in-person of verbal interaction, but I'd love you to share a little bit about yourself and help us gauge, is something, becoming a community speaker, something you already do, or is it something you're interested in, or you like the idea of but you're nervous about? So Heather, this is your first time speaking.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Okay.
Congrats. That's
Very
fantastic.
brave. Great. I can see quite a few people are typing. That's awesome. Thank you very much.
Or Rihan has, but not in tech. So hopefully you do some in tech soon, Rihan. That's fantastic. Now, Ariane has now seen Ariane present to customers, and she's absolutely amazing. So a natural presenter, really clear, really good. So yeah, one to watch for sure if Ariane presents in the community.
Wonderful.
Thanks, Sarah.
Great. Brilliant. Yeah, Natalia, you've got lots of commercial experience, which is fantastic. Yeah, and yeah, Di, yeah, we know you well. Yes, awesome. Good, good, good. All right. Yeah, Di, you joined the pilot of this talk, if I remember. And yeah, I can see James typing. Yeah, James, I know from the D365 Power Platform User Group Southwest and Power Platform User Group Wales. All right. So keep on typing in there. So also, what are the benefits of speaking events? So in your view, why do people do this? Networking, absolutely. So for me personally, I used to be a Power BI report author, and then I moved into Power Platform just as lockdowns are starting, and then became a contractor. And so I then had to self-learn a new skill set, and that was quite challenging. So it was only after the lockdowns finished and I began going to user groups and learning from other professionals that I actually began to know how to do a Power Platform properly. And from that, I was then able to progress my career. And having had such a positive experience at user groups, so it was natural for me to then want to contribute back to them, and really enjoying doing that. Okay, yeah, sharing knowledge, yeah, great. Yeah, get feedback. That's, yeah, one of the benefits of me being a trainer is people ask me questions and I'm like, I have no idea. I need to find that out. Okay. Yeah, fantastic. Yeah, encouraging yeah, women to become well known and improve their confidence and progress their careers. Awesome. A good challenge. I love that. Yes. Where would life be without a challenge? All right. So some things that Keith and I prepared earlier. So contributing to the community. So Microsoft create the products, but they don't necessarily educate us on how to use them. It's other professionals that advise us on that. If we stand up in front of a group of people and talk about it, we have to know it quite well to be able to do that. So preparing for a session motivates us to go deeper into a topic, improves our communication skills, so broadens that professional networks. Instead of just knowing the people in our team, in our organization, we get to know people in other organizations and from different parts of the tech stack. So we put all those together and then we start to develop quite a commercially valuable skill. So if we were just going to present at one user group once, that would be a good experience for us, but it's not necessarily going to change the direction of our career. But if we're doing that regularly, then all these things start to compound over time and they'll open a lot of doors to us that previously we just didn't know existed. and people start to identify us as kind of knowing what we're doing. That doesn't necessarily mean that we do know what we're doing, but just the fact that we do stand up in front of other people and talk about things, people, respect and look up to that. Okay, and the third question, which is probably why quite a few of us are here. So what obstacles might we have to speaking? All right, yeah, some really honest responses here. Appreciate that. Fantastic. Thanks for such a full answer, James. Yeah, finding a useful topic. Yeah, awesome. There's lots of experts in the room, but there's lots of people who speak at events who may not necessarily be experts, but they start to become experts through putting themselves out there. All right, fantastic. So this particular section was prepared by a colleague of mine, Heather O'Grady, so I want to thank her for that. She was part of the pilot talk that Keith and I delivered last year. So fear and anxiety, it's not always natural for most of us to stand up in front of a group of people and talk about things. Self-doubt or imposter syndrome. We look at other people who are talking about things and we think, well, how can I actually be there? Do I need to feel ready? Practical barriers, so getting to the events and finding time to prepare, especially if we have a busy home life. Handle the unexpected, so if people ask us questions, Natalia will help you with that. How do we handle that? Okay. So how do we overcome these? So self-reflection. So take some time to think about what may be stopping yourself from putting yourself forward. And then instead of feeling isolated, talk to a friend or somebody else you know from a user group or a colleague. And a problem shared is a problem halved. Keith and I, we're very happy to mentor anybody from this call to become a speaker after this. There's a number of other groups that help mentor people to become speakers as well. So get some personal advice from other people who've walked that path before you. There's lots of YouTube videos and books out there that talk about public speaking and how to improve our communication skills. And let's start small and safe. So I saw people mentioning a Power Platform conference in Las Vegas in the chat, which gets like 8,000 people there. That's probably not the right place to start. Let's start in a smaller group where we know people, where we feel comfortable in the environment. That could be a user group or it could be within our workspace. Over to Keith.
Lovely, thanks, Neil. And that's a really good point. Sometimes graduating where Heather's been really brave today doing a new speaker slot, but it's a 15-minute lightning talk. And it may be that you do graduate, find, it's fun, I'm not bothered, or no, I love it. And then you start looking at other events, maybe in person, then community events, and build. But a few things to be aware of that, many of these community events, they don't always pay speaker expenses. So, we might have to think about, do we have the budget to self-fund, or maybe we'll kind of compromise with our employer if we work for someone. They might say, well, we'll pay for your ticket, but you've got to get your flights. They may be kind of, bridging the gap and bearing that in mind. Will the employer pay towards that fully or partially? And then also, if it is, during a weekday event, that might impact your employment as well. If your employer's, well, I kind of need you there for stand-ups, or you've got a demo that day, it might just be unfortunate timing on the day of the event. So, will your employer support us taking time off work? It's another crucial thing. Another thing to bear in mind as well, communication from some events can vary. So myself and Elvira and many other people here went to Color Cloud in Germany a couple of months ago, and they have great communication, a really good app, but sometimes, they leave it late notice to let us know if we've been selected, or they might not keep us up to date with plans. Color Cloud actually did that really well. They were a good example. So it's worth bearing in mind, if you have submitted, would you go anyway, even if you didn't get picked? Do you want to go just for the learning anyway? I know me and Neil, we talked about that, events that we've not been picked, but we're so keen on going anyway. And the last screenshot at the bottom there is just a call out for ESPC later this year in Amsterdam in December. Excuse me, here's an example of an event. It's a bit small there, but where they will cover accommodation. They will cover the event fee. In other words, a free ticket for the event. And on there, they're one of the nice events where they actually pay speakers and workshop providers as well. So it's worth checking, you know, what is offered. It may not be a deal breaker, but it's worth checking them out as well. Thanks. Great stuff. Thanks, Neil. And so, yeah, other things to think about delivering a session. You know, I'm always learning all the time. I've been a speaker for maybe a couple of years now, as in a consistent speaker. I have a structure similar to this. I won't go through it in fine detail, other than like what we did today. We started off with intros. Here's what me, Natalia, and Neil will do for a job. You know, here's our background, our journey. I always like this approach as well, where we give a goal for the session. So Neil set this up great to say, like, if you want to become a speaker, you want to get involved in the community, we're going to help you with that today. Here's the agenda, we're going to deliver it, and then we'll recap and summarize at the end. And it's that great quote there about trainers saying, you tell them what you're going to tell them. So that'll be the agenda. Tell them that's going to be this main content, and then tell them what you told them. Often I just finish up with the topics or the agenda just to kind of reinforce that learning for them. Good stuff. Okay, briefly as well, you know, there's many different session length options. Again, I mentioned earlier, you know, Heather's got kind of roughly 15 minutes for this new speaker slot. We've had great speakers on before who've either gone bang on time, you know, do a much better job than me, but that can be a nice dip the toe in the water, you know, try a lightning talk. And there's many ones like great user groups like the Power Platform user group in Wales, where you can get a 30-minute slot that's nice in between. And then the 45 to 60 minutes, that can be quite common with these bigger events, such as the ESPC one. We can see the screenshot at the bottom there. There's many kind of 60-minute options, and then full-day tutorials, which some of those bigger community and bigger corporate, maybe commercial events would offer as well. You know, great ones like Baltic Summit. Me and Neil are going to be delivering workshops in Poland at Baltic Summit later this year. We're both going to go to Nordic Summit. You've both got a lot going on this year, so there's a lot of different options. It's not just the 45 minutes only. Okay. Different formats as well. We can tell here this one is a virtual or fully remote. Many of them are in person. So last week I was at EPPC in Copenhagen in Denmark. And there are some particular user groups, ones that might do that hybrid, where they combine both. Might be a camera person in the room, where people can go in person as well as watch online over Teams like we're doing today. Right.
All right. So when I've spoken to people in the past about becoming a speaker, one of the things I hear is not quite sure what I should talk about. So how did I begin my journey? So I was going to user groups, the D365 National and my local one in Bristol. And what I did was I looked at the conference agenda for the all-day events and then thought, well, what's missing? What do I know that isn't being covered? And that's an opportunity for me to then create something. And then I was fortunate enough to be accepted in my local user group by Dan Barber, and then began my journey from that. Or we may just naturally be an expert in a particular area, like Natalia is, and we just pick something around what we're doing in our day-to-day job anyway. Okay, so one thing we have observed over the past couple of years is conferences tend to focus on the core Power Platform technologies, Canvas apps, Power Automate, Dataverse, Power Platform administration. But now there are many more components to Power Platform. And Microsoft and therefore conferences are pushing the AI focus. So if we have a talk based on debugging a Canvas app, that's unlikely to be selected now because there's such a broader range of technologies for conferences to select from. So we also have a lot more speakers now. There's been a large amount of engagement over the past few years to encourage new people with new ideas and new ways of thinking coming forward, which is absolutely wonderful. So for us to be accepted at our local user group is relatively straightforward, but if we submit somewhere very popular, for example, Scottish Summit, I think they had 10 times more submissions than they did actual slots there, so very competitive. So when I began my speaking journey, I was like, okay, I'm going to do this because I want to get this learning so that I can then share it with others. But I've benefited more from sessions where I've collaborated with others. So for example, the Thinking Like a Power Platform workshop that I do with Keith, I wouldn't have enough content to cover a full day. We do it together. Keith is an expert at part that I've got less experience of, and it also makes the day more relaxing for both of us. So we can do that for our shorter sessions as well. On conferences, there's a lot more dual sessions these days. If we do co-present, then yeah, we should think about how do we do handovers. I've seen a number of sessions over the years where it's clear people prepared something remotely and then they haven't necessarily thought about how they'll do the handovers. You can see how Keith and Natalia and I are doing it in this session. All right, so conferences, I'll put links to these in the chat now. So the D365 Power Platform user group, that's the largest group within the UK. We've got 4 national events, 2 in London, 2 in Manchester, and then local user groups all around England. We've got High Five here, Scottish Summit and South Coast Summit every autumn, they alternate. Scottish Summit have finished their selections this year, but a lot of people will go to Scottish Summit, be inspired, and then want to submit in 2 years' time. And there's also a community-run full directory there. Okay, so assessing our chances of speaking. So the international conferences, they receive a high volume of submissions because they are high profile, and some of them will then give you a free conference ticket and some hotel accommodation, potentially some expenses. So if it's our first time speaking, or if we haven't delivered the session before, there's probably a small chance of being accepted there. So the next level down in the pyramid will be our national conferences in the UK, whichever country you're from. But it's best to start at our local events where we already know people and where we can pilot something effectively. And then, yes, as I mentioned earlier, there's a lot more technologies now that are then competing with each other to be accepted. Okay. So just a few things to consider as well. So what is it that we're going to be speaking about and how interested is our audience likely to be in this? At a conference, there'll be multiple different tracks, so people can select what session they want to go to at every time. Whereas at a user group, then we attend and then we sit through whatever is accepted. So something that's very niche, so yes, for example, so debugging Power Automate flows is going to have a wider range of interest than something more technical like creating PCF control. But if our expertise is something more technical, then we've got to think, well, how do we bring this session to life? So how do we engage with others so that some of our audience can understand what this technology is, while another proportion of our audience can then take their existing understanding and then do something more with it. So we're kind of delivering a session for 2 different audiences in a way. For me as a user group co-host, what's really important is when people come to a session, then they experience it real in person. So different from just watching a pre-recorded YouTube video. So creating some level of engagement, so asking questions of the audience and interacting and trying to get people to think during the session so that those concepts become more real in their mind, so that learning is actually taking place for people. So they're not just passively watch someone speak for 45 minutes. So we can ask some open questions to invite an element of discussion like we did in the chat here. We can also ask closed questions. So we can, at the start, we can do a bit of temperature check. Okay, this session is about creating a PCF control. Hands up anybody who's done this before. Hands up if you know what these things are, and that will then allow us to speak appropriately at the start of our session to ensure it's relevant for everybody. Okay. So this is kind of how I approach developing my sessions. This is definitely not the only way. I'm sure there are many other methods, but this is just one that works for me. So first of all, I kind of think about things first of all for a little while, like, you know, when I'm walking to work or whatever. And so then I kind of get an idea of some of the key points I want I want to bring across. So I then outline those as bullet points. And then from that, then try to summarize that into a session description. So I have 10 bullet points. Can I then condense that into 2 or 3 sentences? So what is it I'm trying to get across to people? And then from that, condense those sentences into a punchy single line session title. Okay. After that, it's good to get feedback early on when we're creating a session. It might be that we're creating a session that actually is already very popular and there's a number of other speakers doing it. Where if we find that out early on, we can then make a decision, well, actually, do I want to continue doing this, or should I select something else? And just getting feedback from somebody else, a friend or a mentor, will help us to ensure that we then put our future energies for developing the rest of the session in an appropriate way. So get that peer reviewed. Then I'll then create the slide deck. Each conference that we're accepted to will then have a standardized slide deck format that we're expected to use, and it can take a little bit of time to convert ours into that format. So I would only then focus on the formatting of the slide deck after I've been accepted for an event, and then get it peer reviewed. And if we're asking for somebody to peer review it, then be clear about what we're asking for. Are we asking them to review the spelling and grammar to make sure there's no mistakes? Are we asking them to verify the technical accuracy in what we are doing? Okay. The last thing we want to do is speaking at an event in front of 50 people and then there's typos, or somebody puts their hand up and says, well, actually Microsoft changed this a week ago. Okay, Natalia.
Thank you so much, Neil. So let's look at this next section, and it's all about making your session a learning opportunity. What I mean by this is, instead of presenting from the perspective of this is what I achieved, which is all about you, how can we present from the perspective of next time you come across this issue or this problem or this challenge, this is the way I've solved it. So you're helping people that are in attendance. And on the next slide, I would like to cover a few approaches to handling questions. So that is something that is very much outside of our control. We can control the session to our best ability, but when people raise their hands and ask questions, there are a few tips and tricks in handling those. I like to set the expectations early, so let people know whether you like questions throughout the session or whether you like the questions at the end. There is an approach to the size of the room. So let's say you've got a larger group, I'd say somewhere 35 plus attendees. It will be very chaotic if you take your questions during the session. It's best to leave them afterwards. But if you actually have a small group, maybe what we have here today, maybe 5, 7 people, it works quite nicely for people to ask questions. The next one, a lot of people miss out on this, is they will say, please feel free to ask questions throughout the session, but they don't watch out for those quiet signals. Not everybody will be comfortable enough to interrupt you to put their question into your session. Most likely somebody will quietly raise their hand and you don't notice them. I've seen so many people raise their hand and then not being spotted to ask their question. And on the next slide, there is a part 2 to handling questions. A very cool trick that I've seen people use is saying, on my slides, I'm going to put a little star on the bottom right corner. You can see here, and that means this is your opportunity to ask a question. It works really well if you have demos, so you don't get interrupted mid-demo. And in terms of anticipating the questions, I think we prepare the session, but we don't sometimes prepare for the questions. So something I like to do is ask myself, what are those 5 really challenging questions somebody could ask me about this, and how would I handle them? If I feel I can answer those 5 challenging questions before even going to the session, I already feel much better. And I just want to say, it's also completely fine to park bigger questions. Not every single question is a question, especially around AI. A lot of people will turn around and maybe sometimes want to share their opinion or start a discussion. it's completely normal for me when I'm presenting on Copilot for somebody at the end to express their opinion and say, Claude is so much better. So not every question is a question. Sometimes people want to express an opinion. Sometimes they want to have a discussion. So it's completely okay to say, thank you so much for the question. That's a great one. Let's find each other after the talk and pick this up properly because it needs a good discussion on this or a separate session. So thank you, Neil, and back to you.
Awesome. Thank you. So, excuse me. Yeah, working with PowerPoint, obviously we're using it today. Neil's hosting this. So a few tips that can work well is keeping it simple, avoiding cluttered slides or blocks of text or text that's too small. It's not just hard to get the message across, but it may not be accessible as well. I do find that visuals over words work well. So if we were, I was talking with someone before this call about developing a career roadmap, something like that, you may want diagrams, you might want some kind of other visuals that keep things a bit more interesting. So it's not just text, but it might just, there's many people who see things in a visual way. I know I'm one of them, and it just gets the message across a bit better for me. There's a few handy tools in PowerPoint as well. I'll mention here, there's shortcuts to use, or if you use presenter view and you have two screens, you can see any notes or anything you've got there. Or like earlier when Neil was copy and pasting links, we're not having to go into the slides. You might go from your own separate notes within PowerPoint. And a good one there, preparing for the unexpected. We'll have a mention of this later on, is maybe having a backup of the slides, having it locally on your device, not relying on the Wi-Fi, because many event Wi-Fis and connectivity, including big events such as the Vegas one that Sarah Jones has spoke at, really big venues with lots of people connecting with their devices, and the Wi-Fi can go slow. So it's always worth kind of planning for the worst, testing your equipment, make sure you've got all the right adapters and so on. And in terms of that preparing before the event, like getting those local copies, using things in PowerPoint, there's something called PowerPoint Coach. We'll mention in a moment on another slide. Is a great way to test, hey, am I speaking at the right pace? Is my volume right? Is the pitch varied, and so on. Neil mentioned earlier as well, maybe trying a pilot. Maybe you go to a smaller user group or high five here. You might want to try it before you try it at a larger event. Get some feedback, but let people know that's what you're after, and say, well, look, I'm just trying this new thing. Like a comedian would have, stand up. Some things won't land, they'll tweak it, they'll adjust it, and they'll refine it ready for the big day, the big show. Lots of logistic things as well, bringing a laptop and a charger as well, bringing a mouse, if you're going to do any demos, but it's worth having backup videos as well. We'll cover that in a moment, and ensure that there's, enough time to get there. So me and Neil, we did go to an event once. I can't remember who it was, but one of us had a delay. It wasn't a cancelled flight, but it was something quite bad. And it was almost to the point of, you might be going solo on that joint workshop tomorrow. How do you feel about that? So there's a few things where you can, adding some contingency to your travel. And again, if you get a chance to actually go to the venue before and actually see the size of it, see what it looks like, see the layout, that's a nice bonus if you can do that too. And again, other logistics, other kind of like adapters and clickers and things like that. It's great because if you bring one and I forget mine, Neil might have his. So it's worth, you're all bringing them as well. You can help each other out if we're missing anything. Okay, next slide, please. So yeah, thank you. So I mentioned briefly there about PowerPoint. There's something there called Speaker Coach. It's been in preview for a while. If you use this feature there, it actually listens through your mic. And again, it checks that your pace is good, you're varying your pitch, you've got pauses ready for people to absorb that information. And it just seems to improve. It gives you this nice looking dashboard here. This is me testing it for just over a minute. It's actually kind of giving you some advice on how you can improve it as well. So with other people is great, but there's a tool you can use as well. Okay. We mentioned there about fallbacks. So again, can't rely on the networks. So if you're doing a live demo, honestly, recording in advance is good. I'll tell this very short story to not kill the time, but I went to a big event, European event last year, and someone from Microsoft flew in to do the keynote. She tried to give the keynote, every demo failed. And it was all down to the network connectivity. I really, really felt bad for her. I really felt it because I knew I was going to present myself the next day. No backup video. So it really was fail, timeout, fail, fail, fail. And she made a point, I'll just flew in for this. And then after that, I'm flying out straight after to another event to do the same keynote. Even people from Microsoft don't always get it right. No backup video, no fallback to slides. It was just a screen that hung. Spinning beach ball of death. It's awful. So yeah, planning around that, getting the videos, getting them downloaded, embedded into the deck where you can, and just assume the worst and plan for that. And finally, briefly, some tips and tricks. Again, notes within slides that can be useful, memory jog, or even these bullet points. But really, I don't go from like a full script. It's not every word. I'm kind of winging most of this because it's something we've done before, and it's something that's fresh in our minds because, me and Neil and many others here are regular presenters. Another good thing with some events, they do offer like room monitors. So sometimes just checking, hey, have you got water? Have you got the mic set up? Everything okay? Sometimes they can hold up cards to say, hey, 10 minutes to go. They often sit in the front row. It's a nice little nudge to say, oh, okay, I'm running short on time here. I need to speed it up. And if you're feeling nervous before the session, I've done this before, just chatting up people to take your mind off it. Just get, instead of focusing on the streams of people coming into the room, just chat with people, take your mind off things, get relaxed so you can really enjoy it yourself. Because if you do, there's a good chance the audience will enjoy it as well. After the session, very briefly, again, we can, always on hand for any questions after this, but we try and make a PDF of the slide deck available. Some events have portals you can upload this. Sometimes the event asks for feedback from people. If not, you can always provide your own with a QR code at the end of your session. It's always good to see where you can improve things going forward. Any files, anything you want to share, you can share it in a GitHub repo. It's a nice free way of sharing things with other people, building up your brand going forward as well. And I know many of us do this quite well. Me and Neil sometimes beat each other to it, but thanking the organisers, just showing the respect of, we know how hard it is to put these user groups on, like Neil does and what Di does with a cross-government low-code community. Me and Sarah, it's a lot of work. Sometimes people don't show up, sometimes they're late, sometimes they have issues. So thanking the organisers is a really nice touch. And consider submitting that same session for another event. Get some value, get some reusability. You want to put in a 10-hour shift, getting a session ready, 2 people turn up and you never do it again. So bear in mind if you do want to repeat things. And here there's a few notes on submitting to some events. So of course the National Day that was mentioned earlier on. High Five, of course, just ping me and Sarah directly if you want to speak, such as the kind of the shorter lightning talk if you want. And there's a QR code there and a link that we can share in the chat. Thank you, Neil, for about some of these local events. There's many good evening and all-day user group events as well. Often, don't get too nervous and don't submit a session. Many sessions like High Five that me and Sarah do, and these user groups, they're actually begging for speakers. Sometimes they're actually reaching out to the network of like, we've got no one for next month. Can you speak? Or someone backed out, it's in 2 weeks. Have you got anything up your sleeve? Can you do it? So yeah, you don't put yourself down. Don't talk yourself out of it. If you want to do it, just go for it. Okay.
Cool. Thanks, Keith. Thanks, Natalia. So we've looked at obstacles to speaking and then, create an action plan for yourself to resolve any of those. Take a look at upcoming events and decide what you'll be attending anyway. Draft a session outline and title, get it peer reviewed, develop the session and then pilot it to get some feedback and iterate it. Submit it on Sessionize or Run.events, prepare any fallbacks, and then enjoy it, really. So here's QR codes for each of us on LinkedIn. I'm mentoring a number of people to become community speakers at the moment. If that's a journey you want to go on, happy to mentor more people. So I think we can wrap it up there. Message either Keith or myself will send you a PDF of the deck, and that's then got some additional slides on creating a Sessionize account as well.
Awesome. Thank you very much, everyone. Again, as Neil says, just reach out to us if you have any questions, and thanks so much. If anyone's got questions now, just raise the hand in Teams and we'll help out where we can. And if not, if you think of something later, just ping me, Neil, or Natalia. Reach out. Oh, here we go. Sarah's got a question. Go for it, Sarah.
Hi. No, that was great. Really good overview from start to finish. And yeah, it slipped my mind earlier, but Neil told me in a WhatsApp group why he was mentoring new speakers recently. I really, really like that. And I think it's good to share as part of this information, because we go to events, some of us more than others, and there's a very similar speaker circuit sometimes. I'm not looking at you, Keith, promise. But there is, and because there's the confident people that are happy to submit, and then there's people that kind of aspire to get to that point, and people bring in new perspectives. I remember seeing Elvira for the first time and like, oh God, I love that woman. I need to go and have a conversation with her, because I hadn't seen her before. It's a different energy, different perspective. So yeah, just sort of kudos for doing that, Neil, and for the reasons why. I go to many local user groups where the organisers are going, does anybody want to speak? And yeah, and you just think there's different ways of encouraging it. So yeah, good for you.
Thanks.
Thank you. Spot on. Great. Any other questions? Any other thoughts? It's great seeing so many people who've been new speakers with us before, like Martin, did a great session for us. And so many people have, sometimes with late notice, and they've not had much time to prepare. So again, you don't need to overthink it for 3 months. Sometimes you just need to, next week, bang, I'll throw something quickly together. And before you know it, 50 minutes really disappears. It does go by quickly. Okay, fantastic. Right, I think we are finished. Thank you again, everyone. Appreciate that.
Could I just get you to answer James's question in the chat before we move on to Heather?
Great stuff. So yeah, great question for everyone there from James. Do you have any advice for people starting out who may be nervous and doing their first talks? Sometimes not very concise and improved over time. Yeah, thanks for sharing that, James. It's really appreciate you being open with that. It's a tough thing, putting yourself out there. As Neil said, you've got to know your stuff to an extent. What if someone asks a tough question? What if someone corrects you? Hey, this changed 2 weeks ago. You're not up to date. I think things like that is, if you do feel the nerves, some people, just like me, Neil, and Natalia have done today, you'll collab with someone else. It might be a seasoned speaker, like a Neil. It might be someone who's fairly new, or someone you've got a good rapport with already, but kind of being there. I know I've had a couple of speakers do that with me before, but they've been open about it. So, you've done this for 2 or 3 years. I'm brand new. What if I get a tough technical question? I might bring it on. It's okay. If we don't know it, the good comment earlier about, Natalia mentioned, it's all right to park a question. If you don't know it, you just be honest. I'll get back to you about that. So I think just seeing that, knowing what you're comfortable with. And one last thing that I'd share that worked for me. My first session was maybe 3 or 4 years ago, and it was about, I'd taken a couple of Microsoft exams, but I was new to it. But I owned that. So when I did a session, it was like, hey, I'm new to Microsoft exams. Here's what I'm learning along the way. So no one looked to me and said, he's claiming to be an expert. I'm like, no, I've just done 2. I found a roadmap. I found some discounts and some study tips. I want to share them with everyone because I wished I'd known that from the start. So that's another thing, is sharing your journey. It's absolutely fine as well, but hopefully that helps. Awesome.
Yeah, that's a great answer, Keith. Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, great. Any other questions? Just feel free to raise your hands. Otherwise, we are pretty much bang on the minute, which is fantastic.
And unusual.
Awesome. Quick, get a screenshot. Yeah.
Right, I know Heather is dead excited about this. She's itching to get on and move forward. So thank you so much, everybody, from the session we've just had. But Heather, first time speaker, like I say, pocket rocket, full of energy. When we first spoke, she was telling me about all these amazing things she was building in Power BI, and the passion just shone through. And so we're here. So welcome, Heather.
Hi,
over to you.
Thank you very much. I wish I'd watched that session before I created my slides and decided what I was talking about. So yeah, thanks. I will happily take any questions, any feedback, constructive criticism, whatever. I'm totally open to it. However, I am going to minimize you guys. So I won't see them as I'm going along, because if I get distracted, I will lose my complete train of thought. So please pop them in the chat. If you have any thoughts on what I'm saying and it's remotely interesting, interesting to you, I would love to hear about it. I'm going to share my screen now. Hopefully you can see my slides.
Yeah, looking good.
Awesome. Right. I'm going to minimize you all now. Okay. Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for having me. My name is Heather Poulter, and I am the founder of Nyora Data. I would like to start this new speaker slot with a bit of a confession. I am a data professional, but for the first 20 years of my career, I was masquerading in the world of finance. And if I'm being completely honest, my journey into data wasn't born out of some grand academic ambition or a deep love for statistics. It was born out of a desire for efficiency. Let's call it pure constructive laziness. It sounds a bit strange to spend such a long time working in an area that didn't really fulfill me, but let me explain. I didn't go to university. From school, I went straight into customer service, then banking, and eventually found myself in my first proper office job in finance in my early 20s. At that point, I'd never even heard of a spreadsheet, but my new employers offered me a 4-day Excel course to bring me up to speed, and it appeared that my deeply analytical, slightly impatient brain just went click, and I finished that course in 2 days. My very first task in that job was handling a legacy system that was entirely physical and lots of bits of paper. People in the team were handwriting the same numbers and phrases over and over again. And having just completed this Excel course, I was a bit perplexed. I thought, I'm not spending my life effectively copying and pasting things with a pen. So I replaced this whole system with a couple of tabs in an Excel spreadsheet. No big deal. One for credits, one for debits. But it revolutionized the way that we worked in that office. It was a huge time saver, saved a fortune in paper too. But to me, it was just the most obvious thing in the world to do. I just wanted to make the process smoother. Looking back now, my brain had actually been wired for data for that Excel course. Since I turned 20, I've had a very lovely hobby, genealogy. If you've ever tried to trace a family tree, you'll know it's not just about looking at pretty old documents. It's dealing with messy, disparate sources. It's spotty records, missing variables, and cross-referencing completely unconnected pieces of information to find a single source of truth. I didn't realise it at the time, but family history was inadvertently my very first foray into data strategy. I was training my brain to look at a chaotic puzzle and find the human story behind it. Talking of human stories, apologies if you can hear my children who have just decided to come to bed. There was a slight addiction problem that came about as a result of researching my family tree. I wanted to do more. I ended up researching many of my friends' and colleagues' ancestries over the next couple of decades. Apparently, even when I'm not working, my brain is definitely in puzzle-solving mode. I actually called on my genealogy research experience in my interview for my first data role when I was asked if I had any transferable skills. Whilst it raised a few eyebrows initially, they couldn't deny it proved that I had an inherent nosiness that translates well into data discovery. And one last genealogy nugget before I move on. I once watched an episode of Who Do You Think You Are with the artist Tracy Emin. You might know her for her bedroom installation art piece, My Bed. One of the genealogists on the show was explaining a branch of her family tree, and I realised it matched one of mine. So I tracked the researcher down after the show and I asked if he could confirm that the 2 lines actually linked up, and he did. So turns out I'm very distantly related to Tracy Emin, which I love. So fast forward through my career. I tried my hand at sales ledger, purchase ledger, credit control, management accounts, business partnering. And while I always loved the people I worked with and got great feedback, I just felt like my brain was a sports car stuck in first gear. The only times I felt truly aligned were when I stepped outside of my strict job description to fix things that felt like a giant waste of time. In one management accounts role, I got a bit sick of copying and pasting chunks of text into KPI reports every 4 weeks. So without anyone asking, I used lookups, macros, and if statements in Excel to design a spreadsheet where you could drop the raw data in, press a button, and it automatically generated a complete commentary ready for dropping into the PDF. It went down incredibly well and saved the wider team hours creating these KPIs, and was clearly what inspired AI generative models, right? In a later credit control role, I found a mountain of manual copying where notes had to be repeated dozens of times for the same client groups. I ended up partnering with a developer in the company to completely redesign a page in our project management system, creating a multi-select bulk note upload function. That single tweak saved us about a week of manual labour every month. And here's the truth. Because I didn't have a degree, which was a major hang-up of mine, and because I was just trying to escape these boring, repetitive tasks, I never really acknowledged and recognised that this was a skill set. I genuinely thought, I'm just building these things to make my own life easier, and if it helps the wider team, then that's awesome. I didn't realise that wanting to make your life easier could also be called solutions architecture, change management, or systems design, or data strategy. After the birth of our second child and my return to work from maternity leave, I hit a bit of a low point. I felt really disillusioned in my credit control role, and I was struggling to find any joy in it. Eventually, it reached a point where I needed to take some time off to look after my mental health. But in that dark patch, something shifted. It actually pushed me to properly ask myself what I wanted and how to make it count. Oh, sorry. There was another role in the company, a brand new data position, and I felt an immediate pull towards it. So 18 months ago, I finally decided to take a leap of faith. I left the finance box behind and stepped into data full time. I had 2 small children under 4 at home at the time, so this perhaps wasn't the best timing, but I have to admit, there was something about seeing the way they look up to me and wanting to show them that they can do anything they want in life that really helped drive me. My husband was also incredibly supportive, helping me debrief and explore my newly acquired skills over dinner every evening. I don't know how he coped with me, honestly. I was like an excitable child. Sarah will definitely vouch for me on that. But as anyone who has changed careers knows, the learning curve is steep and it can be hard to know where you fit. Not long after making the move, I realised how quickly I was absorbing the landscape, motoring through my training plan, and producing some career-defining BI reports in my job, probably faster than any of us expected. I took and passed my Power BI PL300 exam quite soon into my data journey, so I was a little humbled when I found it harder than I expected, and I was very glad of all the revision I'd done. I attended some networking events and conferences to try and explore this new environment, and found I was part of a really exciting bunch of like-minded individuals, and I wasn't the strange one anymore. That was a nice feeling. I still found myself a little bit lost in this new arena, and I really wanted to understand where this path could take me. That's when my path crossed with Sarah Jones. I reached out to her for advice, and her guidance was a complete turning point for me. She was the one who looked at my background and my knack for solving these big picture puzzle pieces and said, "Have you ever considered consultancy?" That advice gave me a massive boost of confidence that I needed to stop playing small. It made me realise that my 20 years of finance experience combined with a data mindset wasn't just a quirky trait. It was a unique superpower. When you finally take off the constraints, back yourself, and unleash an analytical brain like mine onto modern data tools, fireworks happen. In the last 18 months, I've gone from being an undercover Excel hacker to setting up my own consultancy, working as a fabric developer, building reports that deliver massive value. For the first time in my career, my brain is being used to its full capacity, and it is the most liberating feeling I could imagine. We're in a world now where this skill set, the one I'd kept under wraps for years without even realising it was one, is genuinely valuable and career defining. In finance, I kept hitting the same ceiling, role after role, in terms of progression and enjoyment, And if I'm honest, a lot of that came from imposter syndrome. I didn't have a degree, so it never occurred to me that 20 years of experience might count for just as much. In this new world of data, for the first time, I felt like I could do anything. So if there is one thing I want you to take away from my story, it's this. Don't underestimate the things that come naturally to you. Sometimes, for me, a bit of constructive laziness, passion for solving puzzles, and the right advice from somebody who sees your potential is exactly what it takes to find your true path. Thank you so much. Does anybody have any questions?
Well done, Heather. That was absolutely brilliant. Lots of love for that. Really, really good. Thanks for sharing your story as well. Really interesting.
Thank you.
Well done. It was really nice hearing that story, because when we have spoken, it's been very to and fro. So it's nice to actually slow it down a little bit and hear the whole background from then to now. And yeah, you know, you're doing awesome things. So well done. And now you're speaking publicly.
Yeah.
Big step. Big milestone.
It might be hot in this room, I'm not sure, but yeah, thank you everybody for listening. Oh, and thank you for all your nice comments as well. I know career burnout and feeling stressed at work is obviously never nice, and I do know that it's something that affects more people than probably talk about it. For me, it was definitely the tipping point, and I thought I can't carry on doing what I was doing before in the situation I was in. I needed change and I needed to do something different. And for me, it's really massively paid off. But I'm sorry if I spoke too fast, by the way. I was hoping that would be a little bit longer. But yeah, if anybody does have any questions, I'm obviously open to having a chat.
Yeah,
after the call.
Yeah, it wasn't too fast because you've technically got a minute left. So if there's any other gems, Heather, go for it. Yeah, I'm kidding. But no, you're bang on time. So it's all good. It's all good.
Amazing. Thank you. And thank you to the organisers. Thank you, Sarah. Thank you, Keith. Really
picked up a
grateful
tip on
to be
that
here.
early on. Yeah, nice one. Yeah. You're very welcome.
Oh, and
thanks for speaking.
I am probably going to have to go and help with bedtime now, so I might have to slope off, but it's been really, really nice to meet everybody, and thank you for listening.
Thanks, Heather. Thanks so much. And I really, really impressed with your exit strategy there as well. So yeah, great job. Fantastic. Okay, well,
Thank you so much for having
me. Okay, Sarah, shall we introduce the next speaker?
Absolutely, yeah. I'm really excited to have Elvira here. I'm not going to try and say your surname, Elvira, because I'm going to get it wrong. So I'll let you do that bit. But thank you so much for joining us. Is that a real background on your screen, or is that a Teams background?
That's not a real background, but actually I'm in Greece.
Yeah, you're always somewhere.
Hi everyone. So yeah, I'm enjoying a really beautiful sunset here. Meanwhile, I'm listening and talking to you. So it's like a great time to do this. And thank you for having me today. Thank you for the invite. I'm really glad to be here. And I do really love the community, and I have met some of you in person. So thank you again. And I do really appreciate the stuff that you're doing for community. So I'm a people's person. I always confuse that. And I do love to spend time on sharing, learning, and doing all the stuff on a higher purpose. So not just for my personal benefit, but also to share something that can be valuable for another person as well. And to encourage people who might be, let's say, at my stage, so they can have a couple of years only, or they are not experienced at all. So yeah. But today I'm going to talk briefly about Microsoft Foundry. I know it's going to be like a complicated topic, because till now we had like a delighted atmosphere, and now we're passing over the development and all this stuff. But I'll try to keep it simple and just make the key points on this topic. Okay. So basically, I'm going to share my screen, and I just want to confirm if that is visible. Okay, let's start. Okay, first I need to go and move on from the presentation.
Okay, let's start sharing. Okay. Is my screen visible?
Yeah, there we go. Good to go, Elvira.
Perfect.
Elvira.
Okay. Here's myself. So I'm Elvira. I've chosen this picture from Dynamics Minds because it was an awesome conference, and also I've been participating in a couple of conferences which were amazing. But this one, I had the picture that you see. It was a gift from the organizers, and that was pretty nice. So seeing myself in the costume made me feel like, okay, I have like a higher purpose, or I need to do something really big, or I don't know. I just had that on my mind, and I like that too much. So I'm a Power Platform developer, and I work for an American company, and I also work from time to time in a couple of projects as a freelancer. So I develop like solutions that involve Power Apps, Power Automate. Also, I've been keen on learning more about AI. So my journey also involves AI and a couple of tools I do use for development, and of course Power Pages, which is let's say one of my favorite tool, and I do use that for a couple of projects as well. Okay, so make AI work for your business. I know this topic is quite big because everyone is talking about AI. AI is everywhere, is doing a lot of jobs, and it's like a large discussion to have. So I'm going to specifically talk how we can make it work, and I want to bring a real use scenario that I thought would be suitable for this topic. So Microsoft Foundry, it's basically, let's get started from here. It's basically a unified platform in Azure where you can design, customize, evaluate, and deploy AI models and agents. Of course, you have a lot to choose from, and you can build amazing and cool stuffs just by deploying a simple model. I'm going to show you how. So as I mentioned, since that's a unified platform, it contains like a large model catalog that you can choose from. You can build and customize, and you can basically choose directly what you want to build there, because it's like it has a lot of features and a lot of models that you can just choose for your purpose. Of course, we cannot create without having a secure environment. So, of course, we do have all the compliance and the content safety already there. So all the controls are already implemented within Microsoft Foundry itself. So we don't have why to be worried about we are building something secure, and we're including also governance on the same time. And of course, we want to improve and to monitor, so the quality and the performance can be tracked and can be observed as well. And all the tools that can help us are already there. So Microsoft Foundry contained a specific place for that. And of course, we've got, as I mentioned already, a lot of good stuffs within Microsoft Foundry that we can use, and we can make that as an added value. Okay, which are the core capabilities? So if you get inside Microsoft Foundry, what you get to see. The first thing you'll see is like a large model catalog that is getting expanded from time to time. So open models and a lot of let's say advanced templates that you can use. Of course, you have an agent service, which is basically the part where you can compose multi-agents, you can call tools, and do a lot of actions. And of course, you have a fine-tuning and grounding. That means you can adapt to your models to the data and business rules, or whatever you prefer. Sorry, sorry for interruption, just a moment. It's quite chaotic, so someone inserted the phone here, and okay. So let's get back to the previous slide. Sorry about that. Okay,
So we've got a safe content, which means that we can also filter the harmful content, and we can make like an enforcement to the AI capabilities, because we want to make the environment safe and we want to make sure that the content is safe as well. Of course, another capability that Microsoft Foundry has is the evaluation. So you can just score quality, you can trace behavior, and you can see all this stuff in there. So it's a built-in functionality already. And what is one of the most important things is to have a direct connection with a couple of other tools. So we want to make sure that we can build in something within Microsoft system. So how do we connect with Power Platform, with Azure, and with APIs? It's like a native integration, because Microsoft Foundry has already a native integration that can make possible for you to interact with these connectors without getting frustrated and without getting like, how do I connect? Or it's already there. Okay, so why Foundry can work for the business? And here we've got a couple of reasons why it can work for the business. And the reason number one is the speed to production. So basically, what we mean about speed is that how do we manage to get into a real production or a real end result without spending a lot of time? Of course, that's already a cliche, because AI can make the things happen quite fast. But building something that is quite complex in just, I would say, in just a couple of days, and even on weeks, can be like a really, really good thing. I'm not talking about hours, because I know if you say I'm going to build something in a couple of hours, that's not something that you can build for a business. So you would need more time. And of course, building a complex solution within a week or within a couple of days, it's a great thing without spending a lot of time. The freedom of choosing the model, that's quite impressive, because you can just pick the best model that works for you. You can just see what you want to achieve. You want to read a PDF, you want to read the document that contains some ID, some information. You just choose the model you want and it's already there. You don't need to do nothing. The enterprise trust. So basically, we've got security and compliance that we already mentioned. They are all there. So you can just see, and you can you cannot be like frustrated about some things being implemented on a security, of course, on a security level. You don't have to go from here and there. So you have already the security and compliance in Microsoft Foundry. So that can be beneficial for the business, because we want to build a secure environment. And of course, we want to connect natively with Power Platform and all these other connectors that we have on the Microsoft ecosystem. So basically, it's not going to be like a mess for the business, because we have, as I mentioned already there, everything that we need. Okay, my favorite part is the real use case. So I just want to show something that I have built. It's quite simple, and it's interactive with the users as well. And the topic I've chosen is how we can automate the long document intake, how we can validate, and we can respond. And that is basically something I noticed a few weeks ago, when I just had like I wasn't interested to take a loan, but I just had a discussion about a bank a bank scenario, and how they were processing the documents. So you had to apply for a loan, you had to send the documents, you need to wait for the response back, and then the agent which was taking care of the document validation was taking a lot of time. So that process, of course, needs to be shortened, and we need also to provide some accuracy. So not just to shorten the time, but to provide the most accurate, because we are actually talking about the sensitive data, very sensitive data. So let's see, what do we have as a business challenge here? So why we are doing this? So since the loan application can generate a lot of documents, the manual review, it's not going to scale because we're having a lot of documents, people needs to go page by page. That's going to be like a lot of time going there. So imagine like you need to wait for days to have like a review for your document, but imagine another person is coming there replying and so on. And of course, if we're doing the things manually, we have a higher rate of doing errors because we're doing that in a manual, like we're doing like manual data entry, and it might be like an inconsistent way of doing it. Of course, the cost is going to be higher because we are spending time on repetitive document checks, and of course the back office is going to actually convert that into a cost for spending this time of working on that. The poor experience is the outcome, so we're getting frustrated because we're having like a feedback after a few days, a few weeks, and that's not a good thing for the end user. Which is the solution architecture and how AI can help in all of this stuff. It's basically, as I said, a use scenario which relates to a simple case. So we are using Power Pages as a facing portal. Why I used Power Pages? It's because you can upload documents and you can be there as an external user. So you don't need to have a Microsoft license and so on. And then you have to create an orchestration layer. So Power Automate is my favorite tool to automate actually, and it's like let's say quite easy. Doesn't need to be like a great developer to use Power Automate, so it's quite let's say user friendly to be also used by people who don't have experience on development. And of course, we are using a document intelligence model. That's going to be our Microsoft Foundry, the core of this discussion. And I'm going to save the data in a secure system, which is, of course, Dataverse for my case. This ecosystem has been built in this way. So applicant is going to submit the document. So you need to submit the ID, proof of outcome, and bank statement. Power Automate is going to be triggered. It's going to capture the documents. And then Microsoft Foundry model is going to read those documents. What is going to happen next? We validate the information, and then we save the data into Dataverse. After we do that, the applicant is notified if there is a valid status on the documents, or if that is something that requires attention and he needs to resend or submit the documents. So now I think it's the demo time. Just a moment. Yeah. Here we've got, I just need to get out from this thing. Okay. I just want to make sure I'm sharing. Can you see my screen?
Yeah, looking good. Can see a web page.
Okay, perfect. I'm just trying to benefit from time, so I don't want to use like a lot of minutes, but here is the ecosystem. So this is a simple Power Pages site that I have built by using a simple like web content page. Franco is the master of Power Pages for me, so I have learned a lot from him. And there is one thing here I want to mention. So again, this is not like a complicated, let's say, use scenario. So I have just built the simple website by putting some JavaScript code for validation, not for validation, but just for the user input. So as you can see here, all the stuff I am putting here, all the information is just JavaScript, HTML and CSS. And then I am doing basically an interaction with the Power Automate. So I am going to select all the information here. I'm going to insert the documents. Now here to not make, let's say, violence on the privacy and data, I have choose, this is a document, a sample on to be used. It's not, it's a fake document. So it's not something we need to be worried about. Don't tell me this is not working. Okay, I'll just recheck because it seems it's not working. Wait a moment. Okay, the passport. Oh, no, it's working. Okay, so I've got to insert proof, bank statement. Okay, I think I confused the documents. So this is income proof. And then I'm going to insert my data as well to be validated. Oh, date of birth 2026. Okay, let's go. Okay, so the purpose and everything here. And I'm going to send and submit this information. So you can see these files are sent securely. It's very, very important. We are using here a secure ecosystem, and not everyone can basically send, of course. But since we are in a Microsoft product and we are just doing the part of, let's say, user configuration by having a contact, not having necessarily a license here. So we are just in a secure ecosystem. So we can just submit the application now. And now that I'm submitting the application, what happens next? So I have a next part, which is the flow that takes all this data and reads all of them. But how it's going to read the data? It's going to read the data in a combination with Microsoft Foundry. So here is my Microsoft Foundry key point that I want to show you. It's basically a simple step. So we just need to have a subscription on Microsoft Foundry. And for businesses, we need to make sure that the subscription is going to be based on, let's say, on a monthly rate or pay as you go. It depends on how a business is already set up. And that is going to be, let's say, my key point for configuring all this ecosystem within Microsoft Foundry. So as soon as I'm having a project, you see this is the name of the project I have built in. I'm going to choose the model, and the model I have choose, I will go here in deployments and see the deployed models. And here you can see the model I have choose to work with. So which is my case scenario? I want to make this model read my information and get back to me with a feedback, with an accurate feedback that the document has been scanned, the passport is valid, has expired, and so on. And how do I make all this stuff? How do I make this, let's say, integration with the Microsoft Foundry and Power Automate together? So here is the key part. So you can just see on the right side for developers or even from people who don't have experience, you have all the information here. So you have a project endpoint. This is a URL you use to access. This is a key you'll need to use. And then you do have the body of the request. I have used the curl, not because I am curly, but because the Power Automate requires the this kind of syntax to be used. And here you have like the parameters, and the most important thing is the message that you are going to send to this model, because basically this is a trained model. I'm going to train the model to use what I want him to use, and I want to make him give me an accurate information. So I'm taking that copy paste and I'm changing it. So I want to say to him, please make a validation of the passport by checking the expiry date, by checking the name of the person who is there, validate if he is the same person who has logged in the Power Pages site, or if he's the same person that sent the request. There are a couple of steps that I have trained my model, and here is the outcome. So the flow must have run a few moments ago. Okay, 2 minutes ago. And let's see what is bringing to us. So don't see all the setup. I don't want to confuse the audience on all the stuff. But here you have the URL, you have the body of the request, and all this information that we copy and pasted from the model. And I'm going to see now the output. What is going to bring it to me? So is the parse JSON is the key component I use when I want to parse the data that are coming from a request, the one that we did here. So I want to make like the simple data coming in. And let's see the response. So the response says, okay, how the model is reasoning. So the user wants me to analyze the UK passport and return this data. So he did that. He scanned the information, and let's see what he did. I don't want to go on Dataverse now because we are going to lose a lot of time. But instead, we are going to check the notepad. I'll just quickly check in a notepad. Okay. So here it says, the document expired on September 28, 2025. So it's definitely expired. And then we have also document expired, it's valid. And there is also the name. So it says the name does not match. So the name does not match with the submitted name. That means the name I submitted in the data, it's not matching the same identity. So we are here having some issues. This is not going to be approved. So that means everything I did, it's not approved because the template or actually the model captured everything, and he's not allowing me to submit something that is not basically corresponding. So the identity of this person with the one that I already sent. So this is how you can basically turn the AI to be your tool for a business, and you can make it work in a simple way, and also you can make it accurate. So we need to train models in this way. Okay, some key takeaways. So for this specific scenario and for AI in general, the key takeaways that apply. The first one is that the Foundry is an AI engine. So it's a unified platform that is basically bringing model safety, governance, and all this part of decision-heavy process. It's bringing all together. The Power Platform is the delivery layer. So whenever we want to make a model to be working on a Microsoft ecosystem, we can basically use these products because they are actually useful if we want to build the end-to-end like business solution. And that's not something that requires a custom infrastructure. And of course, we keep everything in a secure place. So again, on another Microsoft product, so Dataverse helps us to put all this information inside and to keep all the compliance and all the governance inside of it. And of course, the pattern is reusable. So all this information that is being processed, that is being reviewed, it's basically following the same blueprint. So it's like a reusable content. By that, I'm going to end the presentation. So thank you so much for attending. So if you do have questions, let me know, I think after the meeting, because we don't have too much time left. I hope it was useful, and thank you for the time.
Awesome. Thank you, Elvira. Absolutely brilliant session. And I was a big fan of what you did in Color Cloud as well, where you covered Foundry.
Thank you.
Practical uses as well. So you've made a tool that's very complex, very understandable. So yeah, thank you very much.
Thank you.
I think that's my favourite thing about hearing you speak, Elvira. Is nothing seems technical, even if it's technical. And I am not technical, so that I always think if I can follow a session, you've communicated things really well. Because it takes me a little bit more effort to understand. So thank you. Thanks so much for coming on today.
Thank you.
Great
Appreciate it.
Natalia, go ahead. We've got a few minutes.
Yeah, thank you so much, Elvira. This is such an awesome talk and such a great demo. Thank you so much. I just wanted to ask, because I noticed you have application reference, and I'm so curious, how do you generate those and how do you keep track of them and where do you keep them?
Yeah, so basically the application process, it's built on a custom code, which is maintained in Power Pages, and all this information is going to be sent by Power Automate into Dataverse rows. So I have built tables, which maintains this information to be private and secure for sure.
Fab. And how do people can go back to the application references? Let's say the team's working on this. What's the way of them getting back to that?
Yeah, so in Power Pages, you do have a section where you can actually add my applications and the status as well. I didn't want to stop there because I know I had like a quite limited time, but you have a section in Power Pages where you can just add data from Dataverse table. That's a built-in feature you can customize, but you can also, without putting any kind of effort, you just put a list and you have all the information there for your applications.
That's awesome. Thank you so much, Elvira.
You're welcome. Thank you.